Hey, peace and blessings, family. How y'all doing this Sunday morning? Peace and blessings. It's your sister RoLanda Wilkins up here in the building on Sunday Sitting with Sisters. And today I may not be too long, only because I have guests in my home and I want to cook them breakfast. And it's 9 o'clock in the morning here in California. But I did want to come to you today in consistency and to basically talk a little bit today about authenticity and perception as it pertains to what we think about things being normal. There is something that just dawned on me um, that I've been thinking a lot about as I do my work with young girls and women, as I help Sister Rosa further Black femicide in terms of bringing awareness. But there is something uh, that I really feel like we need to talk about a little bit today, and I hope you all would chime in and share, what your thoughts are. And you're probably saying, "Well, bro, what is it that you're talking about?" The more I look at the so-called marginal group title, I realize a lot of that is based on perception and the way we think someone is. Like, let me give you some good examples. When we talk about what women are, and every time I see someone emulating women, it is always exaggerated. It is always like, today I don't have any makeup on. I never see a person who wants to be a woman without any makeup on and still be able to be a woman. To over, just adding extra bracelets, just always overdoing it. Like, and it's almost like you make a woman or a girl into this, you make them into this character, if you will. It's not authentic because being a woman is more than makeup and hair and us being honey child and girl and girl and like I never even clap like that. And I have on nails, so I don't be like I'm gonna break my nail. Yeah, am I good? Like I don't do that. I don't even know any women who do that. So that does not make you a woman. And I see the same thing. Even when I see girls who are trying to be boys, the way that they emulate men, I don't even know any men who act like that, to be very honest with you. And so today I really want to oh, thank you, sis. I really want to really look at this thing about perception, even when we talk about young people being, say, in foster care, and I'm not saying, see, it's funny because when people tell me about their horror stories of being in foster care, or when I hear about them, which they're real, I think sometimes we talk about intersectionality, but we don't talk about duality. You know what I mean? We don't talk about. I've known some young people who went to foster care and had great foster parents, and who are doing well in the world as adults. You know what I mean? Um, Somehow we don't highlight those stories. We talk about how awful foster care is, and we never show the balance. You know what I mean? There's never a balance with us, and so that's like when I see women who are wanting to be men, they do the man that's like wife beaters. I mean, I don't even know no man who really wear wife beaters. It's like this over traumatized. Same thing. We talk about, oh, if you're in foster care, you don't get these other things, but regular people do. You don't know what the hell regular people got. There are some people who probably should have been in some type of system, but had to coexist or figured out how to exist in the situation they were in. And I feel like we have to really look at this thing, y'all. Like we really have to stop trying to put us in this box. Like if a woman says, "Hey, I'm talking about Black girls and women," you should not jump in and be like, "Well, trans women, that's not your goddamn place." You can, when it's your turn, you can maybe talk about the plight of trans women, but you don't get to pit them on top of Black women like they're more important than women. If you have 406 Black women girls who've been murdered this year in 2021, that number has gone up in the last 2 days. You don't get to tell me about the 6 trans women that's been killed and how horrible it is for them, because really what you're practicing still is misogyny. So it's kind of like when Black women go all out for their sons and not their daughters. It's the same thing, to be very honest with you. So I feel like we have to do somewhat of a better job of either shutting our damn mouths and not saying anything, or maybe just listening so you can kind of understand. Because I think the struggle I see for Black folks is why we can't just respect each other's views. Why we just can't listen. And even if you disagree, the same way you do white people when they come and they be on some crazy shit, you increase your love factor with them. You be trying to get, the white person to understand what you're saying. And you know what I mean? You really increase their understanding. You want to talk about how Jesus would have acted, or, you get dignified with them and you want them to understand. And that's because you value them. You know what I mean? Because they will probably take your head off. Like they have the power and a system behind them to do that. And so I feel like as a people, whatever that looks like, is even saying as a people, I got to back up off of that because all Black people aren't one people. So, sometimes I used to say, like, well, in my tradition or my family or in my culture, it's okay to say mine. It's okay to identify a group who believe as you believe. It's okay to do that. But I think that's where the misconception comes in that we start talking in these generalities. Like I get so tired of hearing so-called radical Afrocentric people talk about this history of Africa like if we were all living in Alameda County. Like the African continent is very vast. I was listening to somebody on Clubhouse yesterday, and the young man basically said in Nigeria, they have so many different African tribes and they all don't get along. Really has nothing to do with the white man. It's just that we're all different. I have sisters. I have three sisters. We're all very different. We have disagreements. We do all kinds. We're not sitting there hunky dory all the time, but we know how to. We have enough respect when we back off of each other. And that's what we got to learn. We got to learn how to just respect where people are, not to push you over the edge, not to bully you, not to make you include other people, even though your needs haven't been met. I hear, like, as you get older, you get to sit back and really pay attention to stuff. As I get older, I really get to see the hypocrisy sometimes of us. You know what I mean? How one minute we say is all about the youth, but then when they age out, y'all don't want to fuck with them. But then you'll talk about how we got to look out for each other. We talk about we got to focus on young people, but we forget young people have to go home to old people. And so then what do we do with that? Like, how do we make sure those older people are healthy and strong? Because here's the real truth. Older people impact the younger people and babies. They're there molding all the time. So if you look over them, you know what I mean? Then, what do you think young people are going to keep getting? And I know some of these concepts are hard for people because when you're taught to talk in the like we're all the same kind of thing, that's kind of why it's hard for Black folks to go places. Like it's hard for us to show up for each other because we keep thinking in these generalities, um, this is what we believe, or you need to buy Black, or you need to support Black businesses. I think you have to support people who respect you. You know what I mean? I think you should support people. Like I can't support nobody who has a Black business. You talk to Black women like shit. I'm not buying nothing from you. I don't care how Black you are with a power fist. Don't nobody give a damn about that. I think if we have to teach people how to hold themselves in value, so that then you will feel better about yourself. Then you can really spread that love. But that's that deep seated work that I know is hard for us to do. Because we like to talk in generalities because that means you ain't got to do no single work. You don't have to do your own root work. So it becomes really simple for you to talk in this is what we should do instead of just doing what you're supposed to do. That's probably the hardest thing I've seen people have to do is to really focus in on self. Because I think if you focus in on self, you'll be better off. You know what I mean? You could talk about what things mean for you. I love an I statement. I love when people can take responsibilities for what they believe and how they believe it. I think there's something really beautiful about that. When you can say, well, this is what I'm doing in my household. And, when I interact with young people or Black families, or this is what I do, and I feel like there's a strength in that. When you make an I statement, you're basically in control of what it is that you're saying. But all of this general statement stuff, we got to quit that, family. If I'm a black woman and I'm focusing on black women and I'm saying black woman, because that's my focus, because I think if you really want to set this world right, you have to focus on the woman in the womb because that's where everything happens. But if you treat it like you treat your house or your car that looks like shit, then you're going to keep getting shitty products. If the world sees you disrespecting your sacred portal, and I'm talking about the black woman, then the whole world's going to always disrespect her. If that's what they see, how much we disrespect each other. I will, Khadijah. So that's all I want to say. I'm not trying to be on here long today, but I just want to come with that message today. I feel like we have to really stop with the imposter thoughts of how we think someone's reality is, because it's simply not true. When I hear people saying, well, it's really hard. I know people right now who grew up in families where they had a lot of struggle. I know people whose mamas died when they was young and they had to go out in the world. And even though they had people stand up for them, they still struggle because they don't have a mom, you know? Um, but I also know some people who went into foster care and had great foster parents. We don't get to act like their story don't matter because you had a horror story. I felt like we could honor both things. And there has to be a balance. See, what we don't really want to talk about is when you have failure in your life, how do you deal with failure? Because I find a lot of people blaming people for shit that they could have controlled themselves. It is this need of, I'm going to put my shit on somebody else instead of saying, let me take responsibility. This is the part I could have really done. I was talking with my girls in juvenile hall on Friday. I teach there every Friday, and I love the girls, and they're brilliant. And there's one girl in particular, all of them are really brilliant, but this girl that has a lot of leadership skills, and she's just brilliant. Like, she can control the room. And she started off talking about like what she wanted, because that was the exercise. The first part is like how you see love and relationships. The second side of the paper was what you would like to see. And everybody had really good stuff. And she was saying she don't think she's ever going to get to the good stuff. And then she started giving me all this list of why her life was messed up. And I said, wow, like all that, all that is responsible for you being in here? You have no, you could have did one thing differently, you know? And then we went into this whole conversation of taking responsibility for how you react, because we did goal setting, how you react. And that's when the light bulb, I was like, girl, you'll be out of here in a minute. You know what I mean? But how do you take responsibility for yourself? And I wanted to bet, this is just me, that is something I learned from my ancestors. When I look back on the history, so yesterday, I watched a couple of documentaries called The Road to Emancipation. I watched a couple of more documentaries. And what I really gleaned from a lot of these documentaries I'm watching about my own ancestry of African Americans in the United States and the struggle and the journey and all the stuff that they went through, what I'm really learning about it is that they really took responsibility for how they were going to react to what was happening to them. So they didn't have words like systematic racism to back up what was happening to them. Even though that's probably really what was happening, they still came up with a plan of how they were going to react and build something for their descendants the best way that they could. They did not stop because they knew there was a whole system to kind of enslave them. They were coming up with new ways to put them back into slavery or into servitude or wherever you want to look at it. They never once just laid down and was like, we're going to take it. And I think that's the part of the story we don't want to look at, because it'll make you look at your own stuff like maybe you should be doing something else. Maybe you could, but that's going to take some sacrifice. Because what I've seen in the history of African Americans here in the United States, I've seen a lot of sacrifice. I've seen people had to sharecrop because they didn't have no other option, but that didn't mean they weren't trying to give their children the best of what they had. How people fought for their kids to go to school. I looked at some of the schooling, because they were talking about all of this different stuff about integration, which was quite interesting, because I think sometimes we realize that we got ganked. in another whole other thing. Because when you look at other ethnic groups of immigrants who come to the United States, they come with their strengths of knowing who they are for the most part. So that's why Latinos can build their own stuff. Even Native Americans who were here already, they still can build. I watched a good documentary about Christopher Columbus and the Native Americans, and that was really good. But they still have something they can identify. I think Black people struggle because when you don't have identity, then you really can't gather. That's why I don't really even sometimes in saying us as a people, even though I say that, I'm really backing off of that because I don't think we're together. I think we may have experienced some forms of racism or whatever, but I don't think our responses are the same. Like my mother worked herself to death for her children. She died when she was 52. That was like almost 25 years ago. You know what I mean? But to her, in her mind, that's what the game was about. When you have children, you sacrifice everything for your children so that they will see days you will never see. And I'm glad to say, from my mother's sacrifice, I get to have a life that she could only have dreamt of for herself. You know what I mean? So she made sure that was the name of the game. She never once said, I'm working with these racist ass white people. I'm pretty sure she did, but she never once used that as a reason why she couldn't show up for her children, why she didn't supply us, with love and discipline and taught us life lessons and our mannerisms and all of that. I'm glad she gave us all of that because that helped me to walk in the world to be who I am. But that comes from sacrifice. That comes from giving up something of yourself. You know what I mean? I know my mom probably could have used more tools, but the tools she had is the tools she used. As I started doing my ancestry and my immediate line, so looking at my grandmother and my great grandmother and my great great grandmother, I learned their stories, and that's who they were. So that's what they were pushing now. So even when the crack era came into my family, and my dad was a victim of that, and my sister was a victim of that, my mother still gave us foundation. Now the stuff we chose to do, because again, it became our choice. Our mother was a great example. So, say for instance, if you ended up with somebody and you basically, I don't know, you love material, you love money. So, if this person wasn't good to you and you stayed with them, you don't get to blame your mama. You get to blame your damn self. Like, what was the buy-in? Did he buy you stuff? Did he make you feel good? Some people do anything to keep a man. You know what I mean? Then we like to say, I'm doing it for the children. But really, are you really doing it for your children? Or are you just doing it for your damn self? And it's okay to say, I'm doing this for myself. I like the guilt part of our relationship that he buys me big ticket things and then he back in my graces. I own that too. But I know the foundation that my mother created. So all the mistakes I made were mine. They weren't hers. See, that's a little different, family. See, I'm not gonna lie to people and say I've experienced something because my mama stayed with my daddy. Like that has nothing to do with that. Trust me, I have far more information than my mother could have ever dreamt of having. Far more. So I don't get the blame. My mother did. I wish I could be an ounce of the woman my mother was, and how she rolled, how she talked, how she held her head high. How she worked for her family, how she helped others while trying to help her family. You know what I mean? So I don't get to tell people stories of why I'm not successful because I'm not going to be lie. I'm not going to tell the truth about the stuff I did on my own conscience. See, that's that God shit, y'all. That's that part of you when you claim who you really are and the God status, you take responsibility for all your stuff. You don't get to blame that on other people. You don't get to say, well, that's part of my story. What story? Because I was there too. What story? We all lived in that era. You know what I mean? But there is something, I'm always impressed with people who could take responsibility for how they responded to whatever was happening to them. I haven't met not one Black person who did not have things happen to them, and still it's the way that they responded to it. But if you find yourself starting off and it has to do with, well, they did this to me I really can't hear shit you saying because you're not a robot. You can respond. You could respond. You could say, hey, some people just stand there and don't do nothing. They just let it pass over, you know? So there's a lot of things. I also want to touch a little bit on entitlement. Gotta touch on entitlement because I was talking to one of my homies yesterday from Philly, and he was telling me about, the struggle that he's having with his son and how his son feels so damn entitled. I said, well, how old is your son? And I'm still thinking his son is like 15 and some, his son's like 24, 25. And he said, I've given this young man everything and he's not doing so well, and then he wants to blame me. And he's like, Negro, you are 25 years old. How the hell you get to blame me for um how do you get to blame me for your shortcomings? You're 25 years old. You're 25. What I can't go out and live your life for you. You have to do that. I'm doing the best that I can do. I'm doing absolutely the best. Hold on, you know what? Give me my keys so I can give you a key. Hand me those keys so I can give you a key. Give me all those keys right there. Sorry, family, but I just feel like it's the big keys on the key ring. Just hand those keys to me, and I'll get that for you. So I'm just saying, like I feel like we got to talk about the entitlement. I feel like when you do not make your children struggle or earn anything, that's why in life it's important to let your kids go out there and struggle a little bit. Now, granted, family, I know that's kind of hard for some of y'all because I hear people talk about their kids and not being as strong. Here, that fits everything. You just kiss me. So I know that sorry about that, family. I know that um, we talk about things that maybe we didn't have when we were young, but if you just give it to your children and they do not earn it, then how can they compete against a world of folks who may help their kids get jobs and know how to run a store and mannerisms? Like, how your kid gonna compete against that? And when they're an adult, let me get that clear too, because I think when you're over 21, you're an adult. So all the mistakes start to become yours. I mean, some people start that early. I know people who were 14 years old and were more of an adult than some adults I knew. You know what I mean? But then I've seen some kids who, I'm saying kids because I'm about 50, that, they act like they still 10. Like if they, I don't know, go off to college and they ain't finished school yet, they act like, well, that's because I don't have enough support. Negro, you are 25 years old. Like, how long does it take for you to finish college? And then like you got kids or something. You're one person. You know what I mean? So I just feel like the entitlement factor is something else that is holding us back. Because again, it's based on a perception of what you think you're supposed to have and how we're supposed to give it to you. That's a problem. That's a very big problem. Perception will have you feeling like you're supposed to get some things and we're supposed to get them to you instead of you going out to get it. So I don't know how you're going to um, I don't know how you're going to compete with the other cultures that are here when they are grooming their children to, be accountable for themselves. You know, how do you compete against people's children like that? How do you prepare your child to go out in the world and be okay with their position? So yesterday I was listening to the Clubhouse and um, I was in a room around ADOS practicing white supremacy on immigrants. It was some dumbass title like that. And the sister got on there. I think she was from Britain, and she made so much sense in what she said. And she basically, talked about how sometimes we can get so distracted with bullshit. And if we put that much time into really bettering ourselves, having more empathy for ourselves, and just keep working, we probably would be further along in our perspective groups. Because I'm going to start saying things like that. Because I don't think we're one people. I don't think Black people from Ghana are exactly like people from America. This has nothing to do with us all coming from the same root. You know, all of us come from the same root, supposedly of humanity. You know, and we're all very different, and that's okay. But I think of the way that you pull people together. You know, you don't do no fantasy. We got to all come together. Don't know that shit's never gonna work. But what you can do, you can work at right where you are right now. So if you work from that nucleus and just get your work done, then everybody else is working from theirs. Then we start having what? A movement, an organic movement, not a funded movement. Because I'm going to tell you, I don't trust activists who get paid. I don't. Because I think they're not critical thinkers and they cannot tell the truth because they're getting paid by somebody. So they can't be honest. They can't say, well, this is they can't do it. They have to stick to the lines that they've been fed because it's their job. So I think having an activist and that's their job to be an activist, that's disaster. Like, no, activism should come from your being. You know what I mean? That should be something. It's not something you should do from 9 to 5. If you're walking down the street and you see somebody in distress, you don't say, I don't get paid if I activate, if I try to help them. You know what I mean? Will I get paid for this? No, you should do it because it's the right thing to do. You should stand up because it's the right thing to do, not because there's cameras out there, not because we're on the news. And you know what I find funny, family? Now that I'm saying this, is that I remember like maybe a year ago, maybe a year or two ago, everybody was out the street. They was activists. I don't know where all those people are right now because we still got a lot of shit happening in our Black communities, and I just haven't seen these people. Maybe we out here trying to promote ourselves in the book or getting a new hair weave. I don't know what the hell we're doing, but we still have Black women dying like dropping like flies in the United States, and you know every 8 hours a Black woman or girl is killed in the United States. And we're not alone in this. In South Africa, it's every 4 hours a Black woman or girl is murdered in South Africa. So as Black women around the globe, we just in trouble. But I think some of the trouble is that we got to have more importance on ourselves and more value on ourselves. And this is not victim blaming. This is like preparing. That's why I work so hard with girls and women, because once we have that importance, we'll make better decisions or we'll feel some way about who we let into our lives. It would look and feel different. And that's really what we got to focus on, family. We really got to focus on that. So this morning, I think sometimes we just need to have messages. Like when I hear the president of the United States, Joe Biden, say that America's not racist, and Kamala says that America's not racist, I say to myself, and these two motherfuckers are the ones that y'all sent up there because I didn't vote for neither one of them. So, how do you say America's not racist when we know the foundation of America, which is what we're standing on, and the systems that run America are racist as hell? That's why Black folks can't get real home loans like other groups that are here. We up here having to survive every second of the day, especially if you're a descendant of an enslaved African in America. It's like a systematic plot to keep your ass in place. Like, I'm never going to repay you. And instead of giving the answer, which is to give Black people reparations who are descendant of enslaved people here in America, that could fix things like almost immediately. If y'all put a system into place that's going to uplift that particular group, that will solve some of the ills. But you're not going to do it because you would have to admit, that the things y'all did were atrocious. Please watch Enslaved. It's a documentary starring Samuel Jackson. And look at how they treated people, you know? And I want to say, even when you look at those so-called systems, the Black people that I'm from, so I'm making an eye statement because I don't know where a lot of people from, but I know my ancestors. They're not generic to me, they're real people. That they always had a way of getting around racist ass systems. And they did not do that with coming up with fancy terms for saying this person's a racist. They did not do that by acting like if we free white people, we free ourselves. They just did not do that. They just made a system to work around them. And that's what we haven't mastered at all yet. So we think we can smile our way out. We think we can educate our way out. We think we can just let white people slap the shit out of us and then explain to them why it's not good to slap the shit out of me out. That's not going to get us to freedom. That is not what our kids are going to inherit. So we come up with all of these little lines. We're going to be nonviolent to white people and be violent to other Black people. That's what I see us doing sometimes as a strategy. We got to change that, family. We just got to change it. So with that, family, I just want to come to y'all this morning and share that information with you all. But I guess get a little disturbed when I see people making assumptions on who women are based upon how we look. Because see, I'm still a woman with no makeup. You know, I don't have to talk flamboyant. I don't have to wear extra jewelry all over the place to prove that I'm a woman. I don't have to wear the highest hair weave ever on the planet. I don't have to exaggerate everything. Honey, child, honey, boom. Yeah, I ain't got it. That does not make me a woman at all. I am not a caricature. I'm not. I'm really not. That's not what makes me a woman. I have a wound. I'm a sacred portal carrier. Whether if I use the portal or not, doesn't matter. But I possess it. I possess it. I'm not here to validate how you feel about who you think you are. Hell, I think I'm a millionaire, but I don't have $1,000,000. But I damn sure feel like one. Nobody's gonna come along and give me a couple of $1,000,000 to make me feel like a millionaire. Not happening. I'm a Black woman. This is who I am. I'm a sacred portal carrier. I am grateful for that. I am just like the earth. The earth she produces, she nurtures, she gives life to. She knows how to empower, to lift up. She knows we walk on her, we live on her. That's what it means to me to be a woman. And my value should not come at the hands of if I'm valuable to other people. That's not how that should be happening. So, family, that's all I want to say today, family. I don't really have a lot to say today. I am going to enjoy the rest of my day. I got a lot of stuff to do. Thank you for joining me for this short time today. I'll be back next week with a guest. Y'all have a great, great Sunday. Be yourself, family. Peace.